A very good morning to all the students of class ninth. And students, as you know, we were doing the first chapter of your history book, and the name of the chapter is French Revolution. So till part 6, because today we will be covering part number 7. So till part number 6 we had covered a series of important events which we had seen all through this French Revolution. So in the last video we had seen a topic, that is France abolishes monarchy and becomes a republic. So we have seen the journey where they started with an revolutionary government, that was state general. Then we moved further to national assembly, and there was a political change then, where we saw the convention as a revolutionary government, and at last we saw a directory, and at last, in the last video I told you the role of Napoleon Bonaparte. So in this way we saw the journey of this French Revolution, and we had finished all the relevant series of events relating to French Revolution. Now we'll be seeing some of the important topics, which are the last 3 topics, and we are reading these topics like, did women have a revolution? Did women have a revolution? It means we will be talking about what was the contribution or what was the role of women when we talk about this French Revolution. So in detail we will be seeing the role of the women here. Although we have completed all the events and the series of events to understand the French Revolution, but now we will be understanding the particular role of women here. Then we will be talking about slavery. Okay, then we'll also relate this revolution with our everyday life of the people during the French Revolution after 1789. Okay, and also I will be discussing some details regarding Napoleon Bonaparte as a conclusion of the chapter. So quickly let's start. And this topic, did women have a revolution? This is a question for you. It means we are saying, and we will be studying about the contribution of the women during the French Revolution. So from NCERT book, from the very beginning, women were active participants in the events which brought about so many important changes in French society. So we can see easily here that women were the active participants. So throughout these French revolutions, women had played an active role. And when we talk about the transformations or the reforms in the French society during the various revolutionary governments, whether we talk about state general, whether we talk about national assembly, convention, or directory. Okay, so they were participating actively. They hoped that their involvement, and the reason they were so active, because they hoped that their involvement would pressurize the revolutionary governments to introduce measures to improve their lives, because they were expecting that if they participate actively, maybe in future one of the revolutionary government will make some reforms in the life of the women also. Most women of the third estate had to work for a living. So when as we told, that French society was distributed within 3 states. The first state was clergy, second was nobles, third was a broad category which was itself divided into 3 classes. In the third state there were prosperous classes also, and there were less prosperous or the uneducated people also. So basically all the people, most of the people of the third state, it's written here, worked for a living. So all the women of the third estate, mostly they worked for their living. They worked as a seamstress or the laundress, or sold flowers, fruits, vegetables at the market. So these were the jobs they used to do, or the activities to earn their livelihood, or were employed. If they were not selling these flowers, fruits, vegetables, they were also employed and working as a domestic worker or as a servant in the house of the prosperous people, or we can say also in the houses of the nobles, I can say. Okay, so we can say how these women are working there. Most women did not have access to education, and these women did not have the education or job training. It means professionally they were not allowed to train into a particular profession. They and only daughters of the nobles or the wealthy members, only the daughters of the noble class or the wealthier people of the society, their daughters were allowed to get a proper education or study in a convent, after which their family, and after that also the educated girls, their family also arranged their marriage. Okay, working women had to care for their families. So what was the basic role and the primary duty of the working women? They also took care of their families. That is, they cooked also, they fetch water, they queue up in line, they were used to stand in long lines to buy bread for the family and look after the children also. their wages were lower, but for the same job their wages were less if we compare it with the men. So this was the status of the women when we talk about the French Revolution. And here we are not talking about a particular revolutionary government like National Assembly or convention or dictatorship. So we are generally talking about the condition of the woman, which was almost the same throughout the French Revolution. Although at the some point of time there were few changes, but we are talking generally here. In order to discuss and voice their interest, women started their own political clubs. So when no revolutionary government was trying to improve the status and bring any reforms in the society to improve the status of the females, so they themselves started forming the political clubs. Like in the previous parts of the chapter we heard about the Jacobin Club, one of the most important and the famous popular club, which also became one of the important government, that is a convention. Their leader Robespierre, Maximilian Robespierre. Okay, so in the same way there was a political club for women also, and there were few newspapers also. About 60 women clubs came up. So around 60 women clubs came, but out of them the most famous and the popular was the Society of Revolutionary and Republican Women. This was the name of the most important women's club and was the most famous of them. So the main demand of this political group of women were that women enjoy the same political rights as the men. So they wanted that there should be political equality between men and women. There should not be so much of discrimination or the differences. Women were disappointed that the Constitution of 1971, when we saw for the very first time National Assembly, they had drafted the Constitution, and in 1791, so they were disappointed, women, as they were actively participating in the revolution. But when they saw the drafting of the Constitution, they were very disappointed, because this reduced the passive citizens. It means, we know the meaning of passive citizens: all the men who did not pay taxes, and all the women, they were known as the passive citizens, as they were not allowed to vote. So they all were disappointed by that constitution. They demanded the right to vote, to be elected to the assembly, and to hold political office. So now their demand was that they should be given the right to vote, or they should also have the right where these women can also be elected as a member of the assembly or hold any political office. When the women will be a part of the assembly and they will hold the political office, then only there can be some reforms and there can be some improvement in the life of the women. So they realized then, till the women will not have the right to vote and they will not be elected in the assemblies, or they will not hold portfolios in the political offices, they cannot improve the status of the women. So only then they felt that there would be interest to represented in the new government. In the early years, the revolutionary government did introduce laws that help improve the lives of the women, together with the creation of state schools. So in the beginning, if we say, revolutionary governments had brought few of the new laws. They implemented few of the laws to improve the life of the women. For example, like they created schools for girls. The schooling was made compulsory for all the girls. Their father could not no longer force them into marriage. So no father could force their daughter into marriage against their will. Marriage was made into a contract, entered into a freely, and registered under civil law. So under civil law, marriages were registered. Divorce was made legal. Now the divorce was made legal, but the important thing is here that could be applied both by women and men. So it was not only the right of the men to get a divorce, even the women could apply or register for the divorce. Women could now train for job. Now they were allowed to go into professional jobs or for training. They could become the artist, or they could run even a small business. So these were some of the freedoms given, or some of the reforms made, or the new laws made for the growth and development of the females, or to bring us some reforms in the society. But it had just started. Women's struggle for equal political rights, however, continued. So this struggle for equal political rights of the women, it continued during the Reign of Terror. And when we talk about Reign of Terror, it means we are talking about the revolutionary government, which was called Convention, and its leader was Maximilian Robespierre, who was of the Jacobins Club. So during his rule also, the new government issued laws ordering closure of women's clubs. So here, this government, the conventional government, had given a order to close all the women clubs, and they also banned political activities of all the women. Many women who were prominent, who were actively participating in these clubs, they were arrested, and many of them were executed. As we read during the reign of terror, we saw that how Robespierre Maximilian was very strict for controlling his administration, and all those who did not follow his instructions or were against him, he used to execute them through guillotine. We have read the device which was used to execute people. So basically, this struggle, women's struggle, which started from the French Revolution, it continued for around next 200 years, I would say, all around the world. And under this international suffrage movement during the 19th and the early 20th century, here I can say it's written, the example of political activity of French women during the revolutionary year was kept alive and inspiring memory. It was finally in, so you have to remember this date, in 1946 the women in France won the right to vote. So after so many years, finally in 1946 the women in France got the right to vote. So I hope you can all remember this date. Okay. So after that, the next topic is the abolition of the slavery. So the let's see the abolition of slavery, and you know the meaning of slavery. One of the most revolutionary social reform of the Jacobin regime was the abolition of slavery in the French colonies. So whenever anyone asks you when this slavery was abolished, when you talk about the abolition of the slavery, you have to remember it was only Jacobin club or the Jacobin regime. It means its leader was Maximilian Robespierre. So under his rule, or if we talk about the government, convention government, this slavery was abolished in the French colonies. The French colonies means like we were under British, we were the colony of Britishers. In the same way, there were many regions around the world which were the colonies of French, and in those colonies there used to be slavery used to be very prevalent there. Okay, so during the rule of Jacobin, this slavery was abolished. The colonies in the Caribbean. So in this region, there were few colonies of France, that is Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Saint Domingo were the important suppliers of commodities. If we talk, these regions were the important places which used to supply commodities such as tobacco, indigo, sugar, and coffee. So all the needs and demands of the European market or the France was fulfilled by these regions, because these commodities were coming and supplied from this region. And in this region there were a lot of slaves who were working to produce these commodities. But the reluctance of Europeans to go and work in distant and unfamiliar lands meant a shortage of labor on the plantations. But lot of labor was required in the colonies of the France around South Africa or America or the Caribbean region. But the people from the European region or the France did not wanted to travel outside to the new lands, unfamiliar land. So that's why there was always shortage of labor in the plantations. So to fulfill that shortage, there was a system which was called triangular slave trade between Europe, Africa, and America. This used to be the case. This was America, this was a European France, and this was South Africa. So from masters from here, they used to travel to South Africa, and from here they used to buy the slaves and they used to take them back, and from there they had colonies here. These were the colonies very close to America, and from here the slaves were transported to these places for plantation or for cultivation or the production of the important commodities which were required in by the European countries. So all the commodities were sent to Europe after its production here. So this was called slave triangular slave trade between Europe, Africa, and America. Okay. The slave trade began in the 17th century. Yes, French merchants sailed from the ports of Bordeaux. So, if we have to see which were the important ports from where the European people sailed outside, so it's written here French merchant. The French merchant, they sailed outside from Bordeaux or Nantes to African coast. As I have shown you here, they use from these are the two places they have given the name Bordeaux and Nantes, and from here they traveled to South Africa coast where they brought slaves from local chieftains. Now they purchased slaves from the local chieftains, and they branded and shackled, and slaves were packed tightly into ships for the 3 months long voyage across the Atlantic to the Caribbean, and then they were brought back for, and they have to sail for around 3 months back here. They were sold to the plantation owners. It's written here. They were sold to the plantation owners. The exploitation of slave labor made it possible to meet the growing demand in Europe. Since they were sent and sold to the plantation owners, they used to work in the fields of the planters, and in this way, all the demands of the Europe were fulfilled because the slave used to work very hard there. So throughout the 18th century, there was little criticism of slavery in France. So if we talk about the 18th century, there were not so many people who used to criticize slavery because the National Assembly had long debates. If we talk about National Assembly, we know mostly the members of the National Assembly was from the more prosperous classes of the third section of the society, or the third state, I would say. And those prosperous people, or the educated people who are merchants, traders, they used to travel outside and trade. Okay, so they didn't so basically their income was based on the slavery, purchase of commodities or selling of those commodities. So these people did not criticize slavery when it was the revolutionary government of National Assembly. So they had long debates about whether it is right of a man should be extended to all French subjects, including those in the colonies. But it did not pass any law. It used to speak about it, but it did not pass any law. National Assembly did not pass any law, fearing, because it used to fear opposition from the businessmen, because it knew all the businessmen would oppose it, because the income of all the businessmen was dependent on the slave trade. If slave trade would end, it means the income of these businessmen who belong to the middle classes or the more prosperous classes of and they were also the member of National Assembly, which would have come to the end. So that is why they feared it. It was finally the convention. So that is why under National Assembly there was no changes in the slavery. But when there was a new government, that is a convention under Robespierre, who was of the Jacobins clubs. So under convention, it was in 1794 legislated to free all slaves in France. So all the slaves were free under that government overseas position. However, turned out to be a short-term measure, but it was only for the short 10 years, because after 10 years Napoleon reintroduced. Only for the 10-year gap the slavery had ended, but it was re-established or restarted by Napoleon, reintroduced slavery. Plantation owners understood their freedom as including the right to enslave Africans. So this was the topic about abolition of slavery. Coming to the conclusion, although this is the last topic of a chapter, conclusion, but mostly it is mentioned regarding Napoleon Bonaparte. So let's see. After dictatorship, as we saw that there was a vacuum, as there was instability in the revolutionary government, and there was no government which was stable. So there was a vacuum of power. So Napoleon Bonaparte took the advantage of it, and he took over the France as a head. Okay. So in 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself as Emperor of France. So he had crowned himself as the Emperor of France in 1804, in the beginning of the 19th century, it means. He set out to conquer neighboring. He also set out and he decided to conquer all the neighboring countries of Europe. It means neighboring countries of France. Most of the countries were conquered by Napoleon Bonaparte. The disposing dynasties. So he defeated many dynasties which used to rule the neighboring countries, and he created his own kingdoms where he placed the member of his family. So his relatives, his family member, he used to place some of the person of his own family member to a particular country after defeating the old regime or the dynasty of a particular country. So like that he was spreading his power around France or around Europe. Napoleon saw his role as a modernizer of Europe. Napoleon thought that he is the person who is going to make the social, political, and economic changes to the society of Europe and to the various countries. He is going to modernize them. He introduced many laws. So for that he has introduced many laws to modernize the society, like protection of private property. It means he was of the view of capitalist society, where he wanted to promote private property. It means he was promoting and supporting more prosperous and rich section of the society, and a uniform system. And the other reforms he made was a uniform system of weights and measures. So the weights and measures which we use today, the iron weights, you must have seen in the older shops. Most of the shops now use the digital meters, but previously there used to be the iron weights. It was the uniform system, because there used to be different systems of measuring and weights, but Napoleon Bonaparte made it very clear that it is going to be a uniform system of weights and measuring, so that there was no exploitation of the common people. And also he introduced decimal system, because this is also of great use. In the exam you can see you get 35.5, we round off your marks and we give you 36. Okay, so it means point 5 is also playing a very important role. So he started the decimal number system also. Initially, many saw Napoleon as a liberator. So many of the people around Europe, I would say, first of all, in the beginning, they saw him as a liberator who wanted to grow, develop, and transform society in a positive manner. Okay, for the good of the people, who would bring freedom for the people. People thought that, but very soon Napoleonic armies came to be viewed. But very soon people realized the armies of the Napoleon was everywhere and invading forces. Those were the army which was invading each and every place and wanted to control everything within its territory. He was finally defeated. So people were now against him. There was a war, and these are the topics which you will also study in class 10th. So here we'll not go into detail that what was the war, how people were against Napoleon, but you have to remember here that there was a war in which he was defeated, and the name of the war was Waterloo 1815. So he was the king from 1804 till 1815, around for 11 years. Many of his measures that carried the revolutionary ideas of liberty. Although he was defeated, but his revolutionary ideas of liberty and modern laws, the changes he was bringing, those were looked by the people, and people were very much impressed, and people followed his ideas. Although he was defeated, in all the parts of Europe he had impact. So it means his ideas has impact on the life of the people all long after the Napoleon had left, but still the people had a deep impact on their lives of the revolutionary ideas of Napoleon. Like some of the ideas of liberty, democratic rights were the most important legacy of French Revolution. Now here we are not just talking about Napoleon Bonaparte, but if we give the conclusion of the French Revolution, we got the new ideas of liberty and democratic rights from French Revolution. Before that, in around the world, no one had any ideas regarding liberty, justice, freedom, democratic rights, right to vote. There were no demonstrations, there were no protests, there were no revolutions relating to the rights and freedom of the people. It was the France where all these new concepts or new phenomena had taken birth, and it still in our society these phenomena plays the most important role for the growth and development and transformation of the society even today. So that is why they have written it has the important legacy of, so this legacy of liberty and democratic rights we have got from French Revolution. So if anybody asks you what we have learned from the French Revolution, you can talk about the legacy of liberty and democratic rights. Even you can see the role of the woman here also. This spread from France to the rest of the Europe, which had started from France, and it spread to the Europe in the 19th century and all around the world slowly. So at the last page we have two names here, Tipu Sultan and Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So these two are the Indians whose name and has been given as an example of individuals who responded or who supported or who liked the ideas coming from revolutionary France. So they were the first one, I would say, the Indians who recognized and they gave the importance and they responded to the ideas of revolution, French Revolution, in terms of justice or democratic rights or freedom. Okay, so you have to remember two important names. With this we come to the end of this first chapter. From the next lecture we will be starting, I think I will be taking economics chapter number 1, and today I shall be assigning you certain question based on these last three topics. Although the content we had already finished, but still these last three topics based on women, slavery system and Napoleon Bonaparte, these three topics are also important, from where you can get a direct question. Till then, thank you and take care.